It's November 17th, 2016, and we're on our way westbound in Chernobyl's deaerator corridor, this gold-paneled hallway on the 10-meter elevation, ultimately on our way to the central hall, or the reactor hall, of the Unit 2. Here is Unit 2's control room on the left. We just passed its doors. We are going to try to ride the elevator up to plus 20 meters where the central hall is located. And that may not be the best idea, because it is a beater.
And it drops.
Good question.
I'm
not sure what button to push on this.
Claustrophobic. I'd let Stanislav. If we don't hit anything, no, I wouldn't hit anything because we're not going. We haven't given it a command to go anywhere. So
Right.
if he
This
hits
is
open
one of
the
these
door,
weird Soviet elevators that you press.
Yes. Yes. Stasi.
Okay, what button is for the foot?
So, here is level 9.2. Push button 9.2.
All right. There we go.
Maybe
That happened when my kids were
we'll go
little.
upstairs by walk because I'm not sure that we will go there. Yes.
Okay.
Go. Because we had some problem with it.
Let's go upstairs.
Let's take the stairs.
I'm afraid of the elevator. It is possessed. Yes.
So we'll work our way up this stairwell to the 20-meter elevation and get off there to go visit the central hall. This is our escort here, Stanislav Shekstillo, the long-term employee here in the information department at JNPP. He's been here since the days that this was an operational nuclear power plant. He's been very good to us. We frustrate him sometimes, I think, asking to do things like visit the elephant's foot and things like that. He plays right along. On the left here are going to be the compartments for the drum separators in this type of reactor, and then we'll come here to the anteroom to the central hall where people change clothes and so forth to work at the reactor fueling face. So we'll come on in here. There's some radiation detection gear because the central hall is a fuel handling area and is potentially radioactive. There's a bench for changing boots and gloves and so forth. I'm not going to show you the whole process because it's pretty boring watching people put on boots and gloves, but we'll speed up here and then look at some other stuff once we go in.
Pictures. So, and also respirator. Naturally. Respirators. So be attentive, please, during our, being here in the reactor hall, be very attentive, please, as usually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why.
It might be backwards. Huh?
Yeah. There's a little cardboard in the back. It's okay. I know. It's better to do it like this because they are too big. It's not 45 or 43, you see?
Yeah.
Can I have a small one?
gloves, Paul.
Yeah.
Gloves. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, let's go here. Let's go.
So we're heading in. The central hall is not only a contamination area, but also a giant hot cell for fuel handling, because when the fuel's out, it produces a lot of radiation in this area. So you'll note we go through this little dog leg of concrete that acts as radiation shielding, and then we'll step into the central hall itself. And here we are.
Wow.
It's really obvious that they don't have to.
So, this. Listen again then. Small information again for you here and to here how you'll walk in, because something is open and the request of this operator not to go here
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
yes, upper core of the reactor. So you can go round, and also so like this. And I'll ask him to switch off the light.
Oh,
Yes.
спасибо.
Спасибо. Да, спасибо вам.
Если наша помощь нужна, пожалуйста.
Я понял. Я вас...
Look at that fuel handling machine. Oh. Like a rock.
You can, if you wish to go here, only this. Not go there.
The RBMK reactor is constructed from graphite blocks that are penetrated vertically by pressurized tubes that carry the nuclear fuel and other in-core devices like control rods. And what we're looking at here is the top plate of the reactor, where it's been penetrated by all of these channels, and there is a protective heavy metal cap over each of the channel penetrations to protect it from mechanical damage. The reactor is empty right now. There's no fuel. It's all been taken out, and there's also no water. So actually there is a little bit of radiation up here, and it's due to radioactive material down in the channels,
Yeah.
and the radiation is streaming up through the empty channels and up to the fueling face where we are now. Over here on the side are a bunch of heavy steel plates that cover up the steam water pipelines from the upper part of the reactor, and they will go under the wall on either side of the central hall and bring steam to the drum separators.
Wow.
Over here are some caps for the technological channels. They're a little bit radioactive just because of their proximity to dirty stuff, but they again provide mechanical cover to the channels up here on the core face.
More than 1 meter.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and pass between the two spent fuel pools. There is no fuel in these pools. It's all been taken out to ISEF-1. What you see there, we'll take another look at later. Those are what I call stringers. They're the holders for things that are inserted into the technological channels.
It's all back there.
And there's some other ones. These are presumably not used. They're not being held in the spent fuel pools. But you can see the little fixture by which the refueling machine grabs the stringer and pulls it out. And ordinarily there would be fuel on the other ends. There's two 3.5 meter long bundles end to end. And here's where fresh fuel is stored in preparation for use. Also down at this end of the reactor hall is the transfer corridor for fuel. It's just to our left here, and this is where new fuel is brought up from below when it's shipped in, and also used fuel can be taken out in a cask. Good view here of the stringer assemblies. This is the top end of the stringer where the machine would grab it. We'll go take a look at some other stuff and here in the central hall. So I'll go ahead and cut the clip here.
The light's coming. I'm just waiting.
This is the spent fuel storage area in the number 2 reactor, and I want to be clear, there is no fuel remaining here. In fact, there's no water in the pool at all. What we have in the pool now are the upper assemblies, the the stringer assemblies that would hold fuel in the technological channel if you had the fuel in there, but these stringers are obviously, as I said, not loaded with fuel,
Over here.
but they are radioactive, which stands to reason because they're so close to the operating parts of the reactor. And so Lucas has called me over with the ion chamber to look at a hot spot he found here, and we're gonna see just how hot it is.
Point your light at it. Point your light at it.
My life?
No, his light.
He is the hydrogen?
It's this one right here.
Hang there for just a sec.
And that's the one right there. You'll notice all of these stringers have a nose on them, a little catch that the refueling machine can grab onto in order to drag it out of the channel. It's really, it's quite a clever way of doing things.
Incredible.
And this spot right here that we're measuring, we're measuring 2 Röntgens per hour. And, you know, this is a power plant that's known for having a lot of spicy stuff around. So 2 Röntgens really not that high, but it's something. And this is, I should be clear, this is very localized. This is not coming from the bulk of all of these stringers that are parked here. It is,
Lean in and point.
it's some sort of fuel flea or just a local bit of leakage or contamination on that one spot. And so yes, the dose rate's a little bit high, but it's, at least as far as this power plant is concerned, it's really not much at all.
Stanislav, how many times have you been in here? Many? Yeah. Is it okay if I walk up on the scaffolding now that everyone is down? Yeah. Spasiba, spasiba. This is incredible. Oh, this one right here? Yes.
So now we're going to go up and look at the refueling machine operator's room. And as mentioned before, the central hall of these reactors is basically a large hot cell, because when spent fuel comes out of the core into the refueling machine, there's a lot of radiation in here. And so the operator sits in a little booth behind a leaded glass window, and we'll go take a look at that shortly. But right here, while we're up and up on the balcony and have a good look down at the core, I'll just mention a few things. There are about 2,000 penetrations vertically through the RBMK core, and some 1,700 of them carry nuclear fuel. These are the so-called technological channels. And then we have about 200 more that contain control rods of various types. The control and protection system has rods that descend from the top of the core. It has short absorber rods that come from the bottom of the core. There are rapid shutdown rods, the BAZ system rods that come from the top, and there are regulating rods as well as emergency shutdown rods in multiple systems. It's really quite a complicated arrangement. And in this reactor, at least, and in the number 3 unit at here at Chernobyl, one channel that belongs to the control and protection system has actually been set aside for neutron doping, activation doping of silicon. And we saw that channel in the control room. Its servo indicator indicated that it was being used for silicon rather than a normal control and protection system channel. And here in the photo you can see exactly which one that is. Now we're going to go into the booth here where the refueling machine operator sits, and you can see the window that operator looks through when he's working. So Lucas is getting photographs of literally everything in here, and now we'll head back out through the shielding maze, back out onto the platform here. And this is a good view of the central hall. In the distance behind the reactor we have the two spent fuel pools on the left and on the right, and then behind them along the central axis of the room here is the fuel transfer corridor, which is a round hole in the floor, and it is through this hole that fresh fuel is loaded into the central hall, and ultimately the spent fuel is taken out in casks. Anyway, I think that is a good overview of the reactor fueling face in Chernobyl Unit 2. This reactor has been offline since the accident in 1991 that basically destroyed all of its number 4 generator and its feed water pumps. And it was a political decision not to restart the number 2 reactor, but to leave it shut down. And it's been that way ever since. So the history of this place, even though the lights are on and it's quite pretty in here, this has been a shut down nuclear reactor since before the Soviet Union came apart. So there are many people alive who have been alive for a shorter period of time than this reactor has just been sitting here. And so in the nuclear decommissioning business, things take a long time, and the number 2 reactor here at Chernobyl has been just sitting in this defueled state now for quite a long time.